So as we get started, I'd like to actually say some names, and I will ask you to say the names after me. This talk is inspired by Black Lives Matter. It was actually a presentation that I gave in February at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. But I also, in the US context, there are two other groups that are disproportionately targeted by police brutality. And they are Native Americans, or the original nations of the United States, the indigenous peoples, and Latino Americans. And so I just wanted to say some names, and then I asked you to say their names after me. Say his name, Michael Brown.
Michael Brown.
Say his name, Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin.
Say her name, Sandra Bland.
Sandra Bland.
And they are all three African Americans disproportionately, among the group disproportionately targeted by police brutality. And they are all no longer with us in body. I am also troubled by the police killings of, and now the people I'm reading, these are the original nations, from the original nations of the Americas. Say his name, John T. Williams.
John T. Williams.
Of the Nuu-chah-nulth Nation. Say her name, Christina Tahawa.
Christina Tahawa.
Of the Comanche Nation. Say his name, Alan Locke.
Alan Locke.
Of the Lakota Nation. Again, they were killed in line with the brutality of the police. I am also haunted by Latino Americans, Latina Americans, Latinx Americans. And so say her name, Melissa Ventura.
Melissa Ventura.
Say his name, Anthony Nunez.
Anthony Nunez.
And so I just wanted to say a few of the names, that Black Lives Matter is not just about Black lives, but it's not this universal thing about all lives, although of course all lives matter. But it's to point out those lives disproportionately targeted by police brutality. And I think that's what people misunderstand. So this presentation comes in 3 parts. In part 2, I'm going to have some celebrities join us at the front. So there'll be a little bit of a kind of movement around. And I want to do a presentation, though centered in America, that recognizes that the struggles are global. The struggles are global. The struggles for women's rights are global. But here are just a few of those struggles that were fought in the 60s and 70s within the US. Within the US. But of course, this is going on in the UK, it's going on it's going on in Africa. I mean, it's going on globally, both in spaces where colonial objects are individual and empowered subjects and speaking back. So I just wanted to put a few of those from the US. You'll see it again. And so here is my presentation. I had a dream. No, not the dream of Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King. I am the legacy of their dream. I dreamed that it was the late 1700s, and I was talking to Thomas Jefferson, and also James Madison and John Jay. In this dream, I was the voice of conscience materialized as a wealthy, white, property-owning man. Because in the days of Thomas Jefferson, the elites did not listen to poor, non-property-owning white men, or to wealthy white women. At the time, the voices and realities of Native Americans and enslaved Africans told inconvenient truths that the founding fathers of the US conveniently and blatantly ignored. In my dream, Thomas Jefferson exalted, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I interrupted. But Thomas, you'll acquire 600 slaves in your lifetime. So James Madison and John Jay joined in. Now, you may not know, but James Madison was the 4th president of the United States. He was the slave-holding, slave-owning 4th president of the United States. And John Jay was the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He was the slave-holding, slave-owning, hypocrite, first justice of the United States. Well, Madison spoke as John Jay nodded in agreement. Madison says, "It was I who fashioned the preamble to the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, establish domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare." Once again, I interrupted. Remember, in this dream, I was cloaked in the privileged identity of a wealthy property-owning white man. I reminisced. But James, you also believe that the primary goal of government is to protect the minority of the opulent against the majority. And by majority, you mean the 1%, instead of people of color like the original inhabitants of the Americas or enslaved blacks. Poor Europeans are not part of your 1%. And how did you put it, John? The people who own the country ought to govern it? Well, this conversation with James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, and John Jay continued. But now we're going to switch to part 2.